Hey everyone, I'm Katie from Addicted to DIY, and today I'm partnering with my friends from Inventables, and I'm going to be showing you how to make wine advent calendars using your xcarve CNC. My neighbor recently texted me a picture of a wine advent calendar, and with the holidays coming up, I thought it would be fun to design some. I made both of these projects in the easel program from Inventables, and I love how they turned out. For this project, I used 3/8" Baltic birch, which I purchased at my local hardwood store. I purchased a 5-foot by 5-foot sheet, which I broke down into 30-inch squares to fit onto my xcarve. I secured the first sheet down to the wasteboard and got my carve ready to go. I used an 1/8" down cut bit to carve out the notches, the holes for the bottles, and the Christmas tree shape. This will make up the back of the project piece. Once it was finished carving, I removed it from the xcarve and placed a fresh sheet of plywood down for the front of the project. I swapped out the 1/8" bit for a 60-degree V bit to carve the numbers for the advent calendar. I set the project up to carve and let the machine get to work. The numbers are just in random order, however I tried to place them in a way that the project wouldn't become lopsided and off balance as bottles were removed. When the first carve was finished, I removed the V-bit and replaced it with the 1/8" down cut bit to carve the remainder of the project. With both pieces of the project carved out, I took them over to my workbench to begin sanding and removing the waste pieces. I used a chisel to break the tabs on each of the circles and the outside shape of the tree. Once I was finished with that, I sanded the entire piece on both sides with 220 grit sandpaper with my orbital sander. I repeated these same steps for the back portion of the tree. To sand the circles smooth, I used a spindle bit attachment on my drill. I don't have a spindle sander, and this is actually a really affordable alternative that I purchased on Amazon. I'll leave a link to the product in the description below. To connect the front and back pieces, I measured the length of the notches and ripped strips of extra 3/8" plywood down to size. Then cut them to 6 1/4 inches long on my miter saw. Once all of the circles were sanded, I cleaned up the edges a bit with 220 grit sandpaper to prevent any splintering of the plywood. The notches didn't carve exactly as wide as planned, so I had to sand down the strips to get them to fit snug into each of the notches. I've adjusted the notches in the easel project, so it should be a nicer fit without so much sanding from now on. I fit all of the plywood strips into the notches on the back side of the tree, then set the front in place. I used a rubber mallet to fit the strips into the notches on the front portion of the project and ensured that all of the strips were flush with the front and back side of the tree pieces. Some of the strips were sanded a bit too much and were loose in the notches, so I used a bit of CA glue and accelerator spray to secure them in place. Then the project was done. For the snowman, I followed the same steps as with the tree, carving the numbers and face with a 60-degree V-bit, then moving on to the 1/8" bit to carve the circles and shape of the snowman out. Since the snowman is round on the bottom, I designed stabilizer pieces to fit into the bottom to hold it upright and straight. Those are carved with this portion of the project as well. I sanded the project down and used my spindle bit attachment to sand the holes smooth. Once again, I had to sand the plywood down a bit more as well as the notches to ensure that everything fit nicely together. But with the edits I made to the project, it has hopefully been resolved so that the sanding will be minimal for a snug fit. To fit the snowman pieces together, I cut more strips of plywood down on my miter saw. These were cut to 4 3/8 inches long to match the notch width for the bottom supports. I sanded them down to fit snugly into the notches and then finished prepping the snowman for final assembly. I fit the strips into the notches on the back of the snowman, attached the front, then fit the supports into the bottom. The supports should fit very snug so that there's no movement with the project once it's finished. I used my mallet to adjust the supports so that everything fit squarely on a flat surface and the snowman was standing up straight. These projects can be finished however you like or left raw. For the snowman, I decided to paint it. I started by spraying a few coats of white spray paint on all sides and let it dry. For the hat, I taped it off and painted it with black acrylic paint, as well as the eyes and mouth. I used orange acrylic paint for the nose. Once it was finished, I let the paint cure overnight. With both projects done, it was time to fill them up. My local Costco has wine advent calendars for sale in their stores, which contain 24 half bottles of wine. If you aren't a wine drinker, you can also fill them with different types of bottled beer or even flavored sodas. They're a fun way to count down the days this season and also make a great gift. I hope you enjoyed watching this video today. For the link to the project, you can find it in the description below. Also, make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I've queued up a few other videos that I think you might enjoy. Thanks so much for watching.